If we are going to talk about literary works and analyze them, we need to be clear about certain terms. In the case of poems, there is a voice or voices which narrate the events. This voice in the poem need not always be of the poet. So we may use the term the speaker. In the case of a short story, we may use the term the protagonist. The protagonist is the principal character in a story. The word comes from the Greek term protagonistus, meaning actor who plays the chief or first part. Protos means first. We get protozoa from proto meaning first and zoa meaning animal. The subatomic particle proton also means first. Agon means contest in Greek. Agonistus means competitor or actor. So what about antagonist? Antagonist means one who contends with another. Anti means against and agon means contest. Antagonist may be used to refer to a competitor or opponent or rival. There may be several antagonists in a story. Harry Potter's foster parents are antagonists. Villains are the major antagonists. They try to hurt the protagonist consistently and they are much more cruel. The primary motivation of the villain is to destroy the protagonist. Did you know the word villain was used to refer to someone who lived in a large house in the countryside? Later, this referred to people who lived in villages. The people who lived in villages were called villains. They were found lacking in manners of the city life or the people in power. So, villain meant someone who was uncivilized or uncouth or lacked manners. All morally good persons need not have good manners and vice versa. But a connection was then made between manners and morals. Since the villains lacked manners, they were deemed to be morally lacking as well. Eventually, we have this version of a morally depraved individual who commits crimes against humanity in general and our protagonist in particular. Sometimes the author may present the story from the point of view of an antagonist, but that does not make the antagonist the protagonist. The protagonist can have a shady character and may be prone to criminal activities. She or he might lack conventional heroic qualities, but is identifiable to the audience. We call such a protagonist the anti-hero, Khalnayak. Now, what about the archenemy? The archenemy is the main enemy of the protagonist. Dolores Umbridge is a villain. She is an antagonist as well. Lord Voldemort is the archenemy of Harry Potter. Ravana is the archenemy of Rama. Kumbhakarna is a villain and an antagonist, but Ravana is the archenemy. Now, what about Nemesis? Nemesis was the Greek goddess of vengeance and the personification of divine wrath. Her job was to distribute or allot the punishment that is due to a person. A nemesis is an opponent or rival whom one cannot defeat. In Shakespeare's Hamlet, Hamlet becomes Claudius's nemesis. Sometimes one's archenemy can be one's nemesis. Lord Voldemort is the archenemy and nemesis of Harry Potter. But the archenemy need not always be one's nemesis. Nemesis can be used in different contexts as opposed to an archenemy. Nemesis, for instance, can also refer to a situation. In the Greek tragedy Oedipus Rex by Sophocles, the nemesis of King Oedipus is his hubris or excessive pride. Suppose you had a classmate whom you consider to be ill-equipped or inferior to you in certain skills. Let's say the ability to study or work hard. But somehow this friend of yours may surpass you in all the exams. No matter how hard you try, this kid always beats you. She or he is your nemesis. She need not be your arch enemy, but then she can be your nemesis. If you are using nemesis in the context of someone working against the protagonist, then nemesis is a far more intimidating figure than either an enemy or an arch enemy. Enemies may come and go, but your nemesis is more or less a permanent fixture in your life. A nemesis pursues you relentlessly, often in search of vengeance. Remember, the word nemesis comes from the Greek goddess Nemesis, who was the goddess of divine retribution. The verb nemein means to dispense justice. This Greek goddess was also known as Adrastia, meaning the inescapable. You cannot escape this goddess. So your nemesis is powerful enough to bring your downfall. A literary nemesis often seems to haunt the protagonist of a story. The protagonist and their nemesis often obsess about each other. They keep on thinking about each other. One of the best known protagonist or nemesis pairings in literature is that of Sherlock Holmes and Professor Moriarty. Moriarty looms as a recurring threat throughout the Sherlock Holmes novels and stories. He is the Napoleon of crime, whom Holmes can never manage to best. Next time you come across a story, watch out for the protagonists, antagonists, villains, archenemies, and the nemesis.